Hi everyone, today I'm here to tell you that you don't have to be rich to be an artist. So you can go down to your local cheap shop. In this case, in the UK, I went to the Works and I picked up a 12 packet of pencils. These are Generalised Sketching, Crawford and Black, and £4. Crawford and Black isn't a bad make. It just depends on what you get and how you use it. And they do cheaper packs at £2 and such, so £4 if you can't afford it. No problem. Get the £2 one. You won't get as many, but you'll still get a mid, a dark, and a light, and that's what's important. I then picked up the best paper ever, for £2. So for £6, I've not broken the budget, and there's 120 sheets. That's technically 120 drawings. Sell them at £1 each. You do the maths. And the only things I'm going to add in extra is I've got a really cheap, like 40p razor that I had in my drawer, and I've got a pencil sharpener. Things to spend out on as you develop is definitely get nice quality paper if you can, but don't use, how do I put this? Pencil sharpener is really important. This is so important. If you've got a bad pencil sharpener, nothing else matters, because you won't get the sharpness of your pencils and that won't translate onto paper. So each piece of equipment does have its place, but when you're starting out, cheap is fine and it's usable. So I'm going to show you that you can do a decent sellable drawing on cheap paper, cheap pencils. We'll see how we go with the rubber or a razor, depending on where you're from. So this paper is basically like cartridge paper, printer paper. It's thin, has a slight coating, which is good, and not really any tooth. So if you're doing coloured pencils, this isn't probably going to be a good paper because you won't be able to lay it great. What I've got here is a piece of heavier set card, about 80 to 120 by the feels of it. And I'm going to put that behind, because with these cheaper papers, when you start pushing, if you put too much pressure on it, it'll emboss onto the next page, and that can ruin the whole pad. So if you've got a bit of cheap cardboard, even a cereal box back, trim it to shape and that'll do the job. It's just protecting the rest of your pad. Now in this pencil case, I've got, let's see, we've got a 6B, a 5B, a 4B, a 3B, a 2B, a B, a HB, an F. Ooh, got an F, that's good. A H, a 2H, a 3H, and a 4H. Now, I like to go into the 9Bs, but that's fine. This is actually a really good range of graphite gradients that you can get a lot out of. Even if you just got a B, a 2H, and say a 4B, and HB, that would be amply good, because it's all about how you apply the pencils that actually matters. That's why when you go out, if you're going out and you're drawing, you don't need to take a massive great big pencil case. You just need to take the key pencils. And you know what, I'm just tearing this. I've not got the mental aptitude today to fight with opening pencils. I know there's an easier way to get into them. Oh, hello. Okay, I didn't actually expect that. I just expected, cardboard and cardboard. How about this? It comes in a little tin. Well, that's your £4 right there. So value for money, the works. Brilliant. So with cheaper pencils, do expect the leads to be filled with fillers and the wood to be terrible. That's why I say your pencil sharpener, really important. The cheap plastic ones that you can get, do I have one to hand? I normally do. Anything like this, they are okay for certain things, but not great. If you're going to go for a pencil sharpener, so these are a bit broken. This is my Charisma one, which I used to have for my colouring in, special colouring in pencils. That's a good make. And you get spare leads, or this little Derwent transportable one. They're good. Or if you can afford the more expensive windy up ones or the electric, that's fine. but the quality of your pencil matters. So I'm going to start with a really light tone, so you might not see this layer. So H means really light, and B means blacker, basically. The H stands, I can't remember what it's for now, hardness, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, please. So if you have a H graphite, that's going to be hard, sharp, really easy to get into a point. When you're using a B pencil, this is going to be, you can probably actually see it's a lot chunkier. These are softer graphite. You can see it marking my finger more. And that is going to break more if you're too aggressive with your sharpening and if you push too hard. It's also harder to get a fine point, so just something to bear in mind. So I've got 2H. Now what am I going to draw? I have no idea. It's morning. It's morning sketch time. So I'm just really lightly, I mean, you can, if you want to do really light sketching, you can hold your pencil back here. It's a good way of making sure that you've got nice control. You can keep nice soft lines. I'm just going to do a really basic little sketch here. I'm not putting really any pressure on the pencil at all. I'm just gliding along. Actually, this is gliding along this paper really quite well. Do a really basic outline. There we go. So, I don't know, I'm hoping you can see this. This is basically a very, very basic H drawing. So, from there, I can then layer it up, a bit like you do with colour pencils. So I can come in with mid-tone. This is going to be a B. I'm not going to sharpen this yet. And I can add in where I want darker bits. And again, I know I hold my pencils down here, but this is a control thing. Keep it light so you can bring your hand further back on the pencil. Keep nice and light so you're not forcing the graphite straight down and damaging your paper. I'm just really gently, barely putting any pressure on. And can you see that's darker than H? And I'm just going to go over a little bit of that H area. And I've created a different tonal layer. So the whole point of this is to literally show you that you don't need to be buying the Faber-Castell straight off the bat. You don't need to be buying the Caran d'Ache straight off the bat. Get the hang of basic pencils and get comfortable with how to hold them, how to apply tones, how to get depth in your drawings, and then go on to your main expensive pencils. Otherwise you're going to have expensive pencils, you're going to try and do stuff with them, it's not going to work, you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to lose your passion. And that's the one thing you mustn't do, is never lose your passion, never give in with art. Sometimes you just have to approach it a completely different way. In fact, where I've got my H, I'm just using that as guidelines. And that's helping giving me some texture to the drawing. I'm not following those lines exactly, just using them to help. Okay, I'm impressed with these pencils and this paper. Yeah, you go cartridge paper. Cartridge paper is good fun for just basically rough sketching. If I was going out somewhere to draw, I would use more heavy set paper. that could take a bit more of a battering. So there's my B layer. It's a B, isn't it? Yeah. So I've used a 2H and a B, and I've got midtones. Now I'm going to go all the way to the 6B. Now I'm going to sharpen this one a bit because I know I can get a better point. Right, ignore the dirtiness of my sharpening pot. Some people tell you to sharpen face upwards. And you see the pressure's been pushed forward. But I was taught to sharpen the other way around. And it changes the pressure of where the pencil's been pushed into the blade. And with delicate pencils, it can stop them breaking. I don't know how, there's physics behind it, but that's what I was taught. And now I've got a really nice sharp point on there. This point's going to break. I've gone too sharp. So once I start drawing, there's a good chance I will break. It may not. You may be lucky. So again, I'm going to come in nice and gently, nice and lightly. Oh yeah, I felt that snap. Not too much breakage, but I noticed it. You see hardly any pressure. It's all melding in really nice and softly, and that's because I've got some layering, but I'm not pushing and forcing, and I'm not trying to get darker tones from pushing. I'm just literally gently layering it all on. Now I appreciate this method. It gets monotonous, and you may find yourself getting a bit bored of having to go over the same areas and the same areas again. If you want to learn how to do colour pencil, it's the same principle. You're just using greys. You're still going to be layering. If anything, you're going to be doing it more. So it's good practice to just get used to. And the motion that you see me using is, you'll see me rotating the pencil in my hand because I'm trying to keep the sharpest edge. And I use a tiny little circular motion. And that way, by doing that, I'm getting a really nice smooth lay down. And because I've not got much pressure on the paper, it's not creating any like really jagged lines. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back with my 2H and I'm going to smooth it and soften it out. And again, not pushing hard, nice and gently. And I'm just softening out little areas. I mean, yes, if I was using proper art grade paper, this would probably look a lot more stunning and the tonal layers would probably pop a lot more. But I'm not. And I can make the tonal layers pop a little bit more anyway, just by going back over and picking out key areas. With my 2H, I'm just going to make some little details in there, just to indicate textures. If you're going to do a morning sketch when you wake up, maybe spend up to 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on how up for it you feel. Now I'm going to go back to my 6B, just going to add in a tiny bit more. That. Morning sketches should be just chill, relax, wake up to nothing major, nothing heavy, just enjoying the moment of creating. Now, if you push too hard with pencils and you go too dark too quickly, you will notice that your drawing becomes really, really shiny. And that's why building up gentle progressive layers will help slow and lessen that shine. So as much as you're in a rush to get to the dark layers to really make things pop, take your time. And that way your image won't be shiny. Don't think this one's actually got a shine on it. Let's see. A little bit of shine, but that could be a huge amount worse. You know what, I think that will do. So there we go. So that is literally how easy it is to use cheap paper, cheap pencils to still create a really nice drawing. If you're not sure when you buy these pencils, or buy any pencils really, on how well they're going to perform, how well they're going to blend, take a bit of paper. Actually, I'm going to use this, so I can cut that out. Take your pencils and start from, so let's go, start from one end, hold it lightly, do a little block, then do another one, but push a little bit harder and see what the difference is. So light, dark. Take your next pencil. I probably should have explained this earlier. A little bit light. Heavier, dark. And by doing this, you will see what tonal grades might be possible with each of the pencils. Again, yes, it can be a little bit of a laborious process to do. I tend to have a few sheets off to the side, so I got a spreadsheet, I made it into cubes, and then I just put names like Derwent and such, or I leave a gap at the top, and I just fill in one or two with different pencils, and that's my reference, so I can come back to that and say, oh, that pencil gave me that tonal layer. That way I know roughly what I can get out of the pencil. you can do, I mean, I'm not pushing hard, you can do a really hard one as well, just to see what the effects are. So just literally start off gently and then do mid, and then if you want to go even harder, so you can do that. But it's a handy exercise to do if you're struggling to know what to draw. Try that exercise, and that will just help get you into the mood, loosen up your wrist, get you ready to draw. But yeah, so that is roughly how I approach using cheap paper and cheap pencils. There's nothing wrong with them. So if you go to school, go to college, and you turn up with something that other people see, oh, they've only paid £4 for, meh, you know, don't be embarrassed, don't feel ashamed. You can draw perfectly fine. You just have to adjust your techniques slightly, be a bit more careful how many layers, and look at what tones you can get and go for it. Don't let the materials hold you back. So I'm just going to add in some detail. I mean, yes, there are bad art materials. There's no doubt about that. There is there's some horrendous materials out there. And there are companies that I wouldn't go near with a barge pole. That's a very long barge pole as well. But in all honesty, some of the cheaper brands, like you find in the range, like you find in the works, like you would find in, I don't know, Dollarama, Poundland, that sort of thing, you can still get good art out of them. Don't let the name and the association with low cost to low quality, don't get wrapped up in that, because that can be quite a sticky wicket to get out of. Expensive doesn't mean best. And like I say, there are companies out there who literally, they charge the earth, and the products are so bad that you end up having to go and try and get refunds. Because I had a case a few years ago. I paid a lot of money for some markers, and it was a certain lady's company, name no names, and the whole thing's, every one I opened exploded on me. Now, I know my markers, and I was doing the pressure check where you open one cap and you open another, and that didn't work, and suddenly you would just be like la 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 drawing, and boom, mess, mother of all messes. So I go back to the company and they said, oh, it's the way you're holding it. And I was like, I can't hold a pen or pencil any other differently. My hands are the size of a 9-year-old and they're puffy due to inflammation. How else am I meant to hold a pen? And they tried to throw it back on me. They wouldn't accept responsibility for a bad product. And then they said it was because it shipped, been flown overseas, and that was part of the reason. Now, I laughed at that because I bought them in Hobbycraft. It was like, well, that's funny. So you're telling me the whole of Hobbycraft's batches are going to be like this. And it was bad. They leaked, they exploded, the brushes were horrendous. I mean, they were like plastic fibre stuff. It was... And in the end, after spending probably about £400-500 on these markers, because everyone had hyped them up, the drawings that people had made with them were amazing. I tried so many different techniques, because if you're used to using, say, Copics, and you change over to Spectrum Noir or Hulu or any other makes, you have to readjust. There's no doubt there is some readjustment to be done. And I tried all the different marker techniques that I could think of. Nothing. Absolutely horrendous. So in the end, I gave them away to kids going to college. I thought at least they can mess around and, you know, splat them everywhere. So yeah, that's why I say expensive doesn't mean best. I mean, if you're lucky enough to see the clicky pencils, so like this, well, the plastic ones, or just any clicky pencil, grab them. Again, expensive doesn't mean best, and for fine detail, clicky pencils can be brilliant, and you can just refill them. So grab a 50p clicky and you can do some really, really nice quality drawings with it. As you can see here, while I'm nattering, I'm just doing a very, very quick, well, not exactly very, very quick, because I'm having to talk and draw, which oddly enough is really hard to do. I put down a light tone, I put down a mid tone. And I mean, yes, I've had years of drawing, but I'm not formally taught. I'm not formally coached. I'm self-taught. I have had some formal training, ish, but I tried to do a degree, failed. Well, walked out because they were not very nice. And art, that's kind of what made me realise that art needs to be fun. You can't look at art and treat art so seriously. Yeah, there are certain pieces of art that you have to take seriously, there's no doubt about that. But what I mean is you've got to enjoy and have passion about the art that you're doing. If you don't like art and you despise it or you have negativity towards it, you can't create properly, because all that will happen is that negativity will reflect in your work, or you just won't do anything. So, as I say, anybody can draw. You've just got to have a go, find what you enjoy. Don't, just because somebody can draw Mickey Mouse 50,000 times or draw an anime character absolutely amazingly, and you can't, that doesn't mean that you can't draw. That just means that that's not your style. So you try and find another style. Don't get restricted and pulled in by styles. Find your style, because I'd rather see someone's artwork of their style as an individual than people simply copying other styles. Because I think there's far more skill in that, because you've created it and you've followed through the whole process. And again, if you're at school, at college, and you sit down and you're doing drawings, you're doing life studies, and somebody produces absolutely amazing drawing that everyone says is amazing, that's their opinion. Might not actually be amazing. And don't judge yourself by other people's standards. And don't be too hard on yourself either. People are way, way, way too hard on themselves. Okay, there's a little dude just there. Again, just showing a couple of mid layers. And the nice thing about cheap pencils is, on cheap paper, smudgy, smudgy, smudge, you can smudge. Now smudging does mean that if there is a tooth of the paper, it will get filled with that colour, so you will lose the ability to put as many layers down, but you can still go over it and push your details. And I'm just doing this with a H pencil, so yeah, so don't let art materials hold you back. So there we go. Me simply showing you guys that your art materials don't define you. And I hope that's helped inspire you all to have a look through your pencil cases, have a look at what you got in the drawer, grab a bit of cheap paper, make sure you just put something behind it, and sketch, enjoy. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be enjoyment of creation. So till next time, all the best everyone, keep being awesome, and happy drawing to you all.